What's up, y'all? Marvel Cross 316 back with another comic book flashback. Today we are looking at X-Men issue number 7. This issue came out in September of 1964, and today we are going to see the return of the Blob. Now, in issue number 3, we saw the first appearance of the Blob, but now we're going to see the Blob join the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and this just spells doom for the X-Men. I mean, this is going to be a pretty tough battle for the X-Men. It's going to be jam-packed with a lot of action. As well, we're going to be meeting the X-Men's new leader. So Professor Xavier will be picking a new leader to lead the team of X-Men. Who will it be? We'll have to find all this out, so do not click away because we have an exciting issue to look at today. As always, we got to give credit where credit is due. This issue is brought to you by Stan Lee, who wrote this issue, Jack Kirby doing the artwork, Chick Stone doing the inking, and then the lettering page by Art Simek. And so, yes, we are looking at the return of the Blob. We recall from issue number 3 that the Blob basically lost his memory thanks to Professor Xavier about even knowing anything about the X-Men. And we also have to worry about him regaining his memory. And so we have a lot going on. We remember in issue number 3 as well that the X-Men allowed Blob to come into the X-Mansion, and they revealed their secret identities to the Blob. And so the Blob is a pretty threatening menace to the X-Men. And so we start out the issue here. We have Professor Xavier, and he is congratulating all of the members of the X-Men. It looks like they have finally graduated from school here. They've done all of their training, and they have been successful here. And we see that Iceman actually gets a blank diploma. It looks like these were props that they were taking a picture with. They're going to get their real diplomas later on. And so Professor Xavier breaks down the news. He says, look, I have bigger priorities to look after right now. I have some missions to go to, and I'm going to be gone for a little bit. So I need to place one of you in charge while I'm gone. And so who will that be? So before we answer that question, let's check on the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and see what they're up to. And we see here that for some reason it looks like Mastermind is actually revealing some feelings towards the Scarlet Witch. And he promises her that if they can just align with each other, then basically they could rule the world. Just forget about Magneto. But we see here that the Scarlet Witch, a part of her big origin story, as well as with Quicksilver, is that Magneto was responsible for saving Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch way back in the day. And so they owe an oath of honor to Magneto. They have to serve him or else. And so we see that Magneto is frustrated with Mastermind because he does not like people questioning his authority. He wants them to basically obey with blind obedience, as he says right here. And so there's a big crash. We see Quicksilver races in. He's all worried because he's there for the safety of his sister. And he says, we basically see Magneto says, look, y'all, I have a new plan to finally defeat the accursed X-Men. So here it is. So what will it be? Well, we're going to find that out here shortly. But we see that Professor Xavier is in the hallway with Scott Summers, and he's going to reveal a big secret to Scott that he hasn't revealed to other X-Men, and that is Cerebro. This is the first appearance of Cerebro. It's the mechanism that Professor Xavier uses to detect other mutants from across the world. And even though Professor Xavier can use his own powers to do this, he knows that sooner or later Professor Xavier is not going to be around, and he wants the next leader to take over and have control of Cerebro, because that leader will not have Professor Xavier's powers. And so he basically tells Scott Summers in this issue that Cyclops is going to be the new leader of the X-Men, while Professor Xavier is gone. And we see here that Professor Xavier allows Cyclops to be in Professor Xavier's own office here, as the X-Men soon find out. So all the other X-Men are going to go out and have some fun. We see that Cyclops has to stay behind, and we see that even Jean Grey is showing a little interest towards Scott Summers here. So we might be seeing a future romance between the two sooner or later. So we see that Scott Summers has to stay behind to check on Cerebro basically, and basically alert the X-Men if there's any danger or any rise with maybe Magneto. Well, we see that Magneto is definitely going to be doing something bad here as he travels to this carnival, and this is where he's going to come across the Blob, and he just gets to see a little bit of the Blob's power here, and he's like, that is definitely the person I'm looking to right here. I cannot allow the X-Men to get their hands on the Blob and convince him to become an X-Men. So he basically has a conversation with the Blob here, demonstrates some of his power, and the Blob is very hard-headed. Basically, he's not going to listen to anybody. He has trust issues with everybody. We see that all of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are causing a bunch of mayhem here, as all these guys are going to try to go after the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants here to stop them, but Magneto is going to have his troubles with the Blob here, as we soon find out. The Blob puts his hands on Magneto. Magneto's had enough. He uses some of his powers to knock Blob right into that trailer here. He hits his head, and all of a sudden, the Blob regathers his memories here. And so that's not good. We get an alert from Cerebro here, and so Cyclops is going to have to alert the other X-Men about the Blob's whereabouts, because this is not looking good. So as the other X-Men are enjoying their time, they're in like this coffee shop, a bunch of hippies and stuff. As we know, this is taking place in the 60s. All of a sudden, we see that Warren comes and tells Beast and Iceman, hey, y'all, we got to go, because I just got an alert from Scott that there's trouble. And yes, there is definitely big trouble now, as we see that the Blob joins the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and Magneto is basically going to use the Blob to his advantage to try to defeat the X-Men. So they all rush back to the X-Mansion, suit up in their X-Men costumes, and they're going to fight the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants now. And now we have a new member to the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is the Blob here. So some great action scenes drawn once again by the great Jack Kirby, the King Kirby here. Some awesome artwork. Once again, great storytelling. We see that it's pretty hard for the X-Men to try to defeat Blob here, because, I mean, only Professor Xavier was able to defeat him in issue number 3. And Magneto is pretty ruthless in this issue. He pretty much tries to kill the X-Men with these flying torpedoes, and he doesn't just send like one or two. I mean, he sends about like 7 to 10 missiles, and they always are going to try to attack the X-Men here and try to kill them, but the X-Men uses their powers here to get out of the way with these big missiles here. And so once again, I'll just let y'all see some of this great action. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain it all. There's just so much going on within this one issue. We see Iceman pretty much puts the Blob on ice here, traps him in his own ice cube here. And we have to worry about the threat of the Quicksilver here, as he's super fast. Blob breaks out of the ice, and he's coming after the X-Men, when all of a sudden we see Magneto launches 3 more missiles, and Blob takes the full brunt of these 3 missiles. And you'd think that would have killed Blob, but in fact it didn't do much damage at all. It only angered Blob. And all of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, especially Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, have had enough with Magneto, but they still have to obey Magneto because they owe him. And so we see here that the Blob gets back on his feet. The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants get into their magnetic car here, and they get away. And Blob is like, I don't trust anybody. I don't care if you're a mutant or not. I've already been living this freakish life anyway, where I'm a sideshow freak at this carnival, and I'm going to die that way. And so we see here that the Blob doesn't join the X-Men, and he just goes back to the carnival. And we see that the X-Men now have to figure out how to get back to the X-Mansion, as they're all pretty much out of change here to get a taxi. And so they're going to send Warren Worthington III, which is the Angel, to go get a taxi for them since he's pretty rich. And so that's how we end this spectacular issue. I hope you liked it. We'll be looking at issue number 8 coming up next. And so hope to see y'all soon. Go ahead, give this video a like, comment down below what you liked about this issue, and I will see y'all in the next one.